I think the hardest thing that I did in rabbinical school was memorize the 2 lines of text that they wanted us to say on the bima the day we got ordained as a unit. There were 13 of us that got ordained the same day, and we all had to say at the same time, V'ha'arev na Adonai Eloheinu et divrei Toratecha b'finu u'b'fi amcha Beit Yisrael v'nihiyeh anachnu v'tze'etzei enu v'tze'etzei amcha Beit Yisrael kulanu yodei Hashemecha v'lomdei Toratecha lishma. Did the thing that everybody does when pretending they know Hebrew in services, which is I relied on the people next to me who knew it and just sort of mouthed the parts that I didn't know. Because I thought it was a stupid exercise that after 5 years of school and studying, I mean, when I say it was the hardest thing, it wasn't really the hardest thing. Like the DAF test, the test where they tested us on 60 random pages of Talmud was actually the hardest thing. And this just felt like such a silly exercise to make a bunch of adults go through. Nonetheless, here's what it means, because it actually had an important meaning. May the words of Torah, Adonai our God, be sweet in our mouths. Sort of like ironic, because we all were stumbling over the words. But okay, may the words of Torah, Adonai our God, be sweet in our mouths and in the mouths of all your people, so that we, our children, and all our children's children, the descendants of all the house of Israel, may come to know you and study your Torah. Blessed are you, the giver of Torah. It's a good, solid message, right? Yeah. So I just had my 15-year ordination anniversary. Thank you. Yes, in May of 2010, I stood on the bima of Sinai Temple, which, fun fact, is the synagogue that is the synagogue of the main character, Rabbi in Nobody Wants This. You know, so like as in the 2nd episode or whatever, when he's at his shul officiating, I'm like, that's where I was ordained. I stood on that stage. That's what happens when you go to rabbinical school in Los Angeles. In any case, may the words of Torah, Adonai our God, be sweet in our mouths and in the mouths of all your people, so that we, our children, and all our children's children, the house of Israel, may come to know you and study your Torah and love you. Yadata, it's like, the intimacy of knowing. It's knowing, but it's like knowing in a really sweet and intimate way. Blessed are you, the giver of Torah. And, I was thinking about this because the truth is it feels, saying this now, thinking about how me and my colleagues spend our time, this feels almost quaint to say that our job is about teaching Torah. Our primary job is teaching Torah, not analyzing the news every 24 hours as truly many of my colleagues, I mean, we talk about like how it feels like we went into this because of our love of Torah and Judaism and leading services, and in my case, like creating a campfire feeling of, harmony and rhythm around, worship, and, not everybody's, like everybody's shul is different because rabbis are different, and the people who love Judaism who went into this business are all different, but all of us now have become news commentators, But the truth is, you can get news anywhere, and you can get people's hot takes anywhere, and you can get analysis of current events anywhere. What you can't get is like a holistic experience of the music and the prayer and the davening and the Torah, and if we're on top of it, what's going on in the world and how we're seeing it through the lens of Torah. That actually, you can't get that anywhere. And I know like both of us feel really privileged and we feel nourished by the ability to kind of put all of those things in the mix every single week. And the truth is, this week, all I really wanted to do was teach Torah, And in the last 24 hours, the news is happening. And I thought, you know what? The news is happening, and I just want to teach Torah. And so I want to learn Torah with all of us tonight. I actually put more of it on a study sheet than I usually do. Very often we'll do a sermon, and tonight I wanted to do a study. And so you'll find it tucked into your Siddur. This is Torah, Parshat Bahalotcha. When you illuminate, But I think we will discover that in studying Torah, we might also be reflecting on the world we live in. All right, so are people ready to study? Do people have what you need?
What's the blessing?
All right, they're going around. Well, the truth is, as papers are going around, I'll just give you a little bit of background. So to set the stage, we're in the 11th chapter of the book of Numbers, which is in Hebrew. Anybody know what the book of Numbers is in Hebrew? You can just, no, not Vayikra, that's Leviticus. Close. Bamidbar, which means? In the desert, in the wilderness. Yes, exactly. So I really feel like one way of understanding Torah is that it is an extended meditation on wandering, on uncertainty, on wilderness navigation. So as we get to the book of Numbers, we are like deep into it, into the book of Bamidbar. So the Israelites we are about to encounter in this text, these are the ones who were slaves, who were oppressed in Egypt, who witnessed the plagues, who crossed the Red Sea as it split, who stood at Sinai and received Torah. These are the Jews who built the golden calf and were spared really only by the fact that when God said, I'm so mad at them. I gave the second commandment about not building idols, and then they went and built an idol, and I'm going to kill them all. Moses, I'm going to start again with the people descended from you. And Moses is like, shh, God, you're overreacting. It's okay. We're going to work with these people. They're going to be okay. And so, and that was like a year ago. And so this is the same people for whom that happened. They have received many, many laws. The most recent set of laws, the entire book of Leviticus, has been about what the priests do in the Mishkan, in the temple, all the sacrifices they make, the menorahs they light, the beautiful worship they create. And so, this is where we are. I actually wonder, where's that microphone go? Anybody know? Right here. Is there anybody who enjoys reading in public with a dramatic Bible voice? Anybody? Yes. In English. No, yes, I'm in English. All right. Jonathan, thank you very much. So you have that piece of paper?
Yeah.
All right, there we go. So we're reading from Numbers 11. The stage has been set for you. All right? Go for it.
The people.
The people.
The people took to complaining bitterly before
You could just say God.
heard and was incensed. A fire broke out against them, ravaging the outskirts of the camp. The people cried out to Moses. Moses prayed, and the fire died down. That place was named Taberah because a fire had broken out against them. The riffraff in their midst felt a gluttonous craving.
You're doing great.
And then the Israelites wept and said, if only we had meat to eat. We remember the fish that we used to eat free in Egypt, the cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, and the garlic. Now our gullets are shriveled. There is nothing at all, nothing but this manna to look to. Now the manna was like coriander seed, and in color it was like bdellium. The people would go about and gather it, grind it between millstones or pound it in a mortar, boil it in a pot and make it into cakes. It tasted like rich cream. When the dew fell on the camp at night, the manna would fall upon it. Moses heard the people weeping, every clan apart. At the entrance of each tent was very angry, and Moses was distressed. And Moses said to God, why have you dealt ill with your servant? And why have I not enjoyed your favor, that you have laid the burden of all this people upon me? Did I conceive all these people? Did I give birth to them? That you should say to me, carry them in your bosom as a caregiver carries a nursing infant to the land that you have promised on oath to their fathers? Where am I supposed to get meat to give to all these people when they whine before me and say, give us meat to eat? I cannot carry all this people by myself, for it is too much for me. If this is how you would deal with me, kill me instead, I beg you, and let me see no more of my wretchedness.
Amazing. Thank you, Jonathan. Beautiful. All right. Now, what I want you to do, and you probably knew this was coming, is I want you to, in chavruta, with the person next to you, maybe who you came with or maybe somebody you didn't come with, to say hello. And here's the question. You can actually turn over the page because I'm giving you the questions. Yes. All right. You can see the Hebrew if you want to read any of what Jonathan just read in the English. There's the Hebrew for you. So, as I said, sometimes when we learn Torah, it actually is a reflection on our life. And I do believe that the extended focus on the wilderness is actually because the world in which we live is not unlike the wilderness. And so a useful acronym for this wilderness is VUCA, a place rife with vulnerability, uncertainty, chaos, and ambiguity. Now, that acronym was developed to describe our world today, not the biblical wilderness, but I think there are obvious parallels. What behaviors and mindsets are these texts mirroring to us that we may be susceptible to when we find ourselves in these kinds of environments? So turn the page back over and notice, what are some specific things you notice these Israelites or Moses doing that actually are rather familiar, if you're being honest about yourself or people you know? All right. Introduce yourself to somebody nearby, say hello, tell them what stood out to you. All right. It was a good 5 minutes. Yeah. Okay, so what did you notice? What probably unhealthy patterns did you uncover here that happened to the Israelites, but of course would never happen to anybody we know if we found ourselves feeling out of control?
Okay, we're coming.
In the wilderness of life. All right, Ben.
I think what we talked about was actually maybe not...
No, stay standing, it's great.
Okay, hi. I think maybe what we talked about was like not so much like unhealthy patterns, but patterns that just feel familiar more
Like what?
so, that are like understandable, but not like helpful. Like one being Moses' sense of like total overwhelm, and this is not, like, why is this my job? Why is it my job to carry like these people through all this? And also the sense of like bewilderment at their ungratefulness, that they were slaves a year ago and they're asking for garlic. Like, I led you through an ocean and you're crying about garlic. Like, what is your problem?
Yes.
And that feeling of like just total frustration and overwhelm.
Can I just ask, because as we were reading Moses' words here, people were giggling a little bit. Is this, for whom was this the first time you kind of saw Moses as a real person? Yes. Like, and actually kind of funny in his drama. Like, oh my gosh, Moses, you're a drama queen. Like, or a Jewish mother, or a Jewish father, or anybody who just like has had it up to here with you, you know? And yes, and it's interesting to see because like a year ago, he was Mr. Cool, calm, collected, right? Like he had the bandwidth, he had the inner spaciousness, but it's been a year of vulnerability and uncertainty and and chaos and ambiguity, and he's tired. Like, who among us has not gotten to that place where we've yelled or said something that was a little dramatic, but you know what? I'm tired, right? Yeah, thank you. Ben, great. Okay, Jane.
So one of the things I'm wondering about is last week when we were reading, the Israelites are making all these offerings, right? And there is like goats and lamb in there, right? And they're doing all these things. They have all of these resources, right? And then this week they're like, we've forgotten everything we've done and we don't have anything. And all we have is this like ridiculous thing that God sends us, right? And so kind of we do all of us do this, right? When we exaggerate the current problem to like it's the end of the world and there's nothing that can save me now, right? And that's it. I'm just like done with life and I'm done with everything. So and I feel like in our world outside of this room, like it can feel like that a lot as well,
Yes.
where everything is just so overwhelming. It's not just overwhelming for Moses, it's also overwhelming for the people. And finding that like space where the two can meet and figure out how do we come together out and get ourselves outside the overwhelm.
Yeah.
Like that's that sweet spot that's so hard.
Right, and it's hard because like he's the leader, he's the guy who's actually supposed to help move people in that direction, but he's also been in the wilderness, you know, and he maybe is also a little bit sick of the manna and, you know, sick of these people and sick of his job and needs a vacation, and so it's like there needs to be an adult in the room, you know. Moses has been that. But we're seeing now here, it's like actually he needs somebody to relieve him of the burden for a moment too. It's like he has to pass the torch. Yeah, please.
It reminds me of my dad and me a little bit. When, like my dad would lose his temper with me. Why are you doing this? You don't do this. You don't do that. I can't handle it. You know, it's like, Daddy, you need to take a break too. Like, why don't you go take a moment? And it's the same thing I do with my daughter now.
Yeah.
And I will, rather than sort of taking a break and be like, okay, let's talk about this. How can we help you feel better? Or do you understand that perhaps, you know, you do have a lot? And it's this sort of like, he's overwhelmed and they're overwhelmed. And it's just like everything, you know, builds rather than, because sometimes Moses doesn't always handle everything in the best way. I think he sometimes needs to say like, whew, I'm going to walk over here and just have some quiet time.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
not criticizing him completely. He's human.
He's human. No, and I love how also we're like all moving into kind of like therapist friend mode, you know, because it's, you know, like the question I asked was like, what are the behaviors we're seeing here? And it's like, you know what Moses needs? He needs a Xanax. Like you know what Moses needs? Like he needs to like take a breath. But actually, for a minute, I still want to focus on what are some of these behaviors that we're seeing. So, okay, what we've noticed catastrophizing, kind of like taking it personally. You know, like everybody's going through something, but it's like I'm overburdened. This is my like it's personal in a way that like of course we all experience things personally, but you know, making it all about him. So what else are we seeing that we haven't yet said?
I love
Heather.
how you said that Moses needs an adult in the room.
Yeah.
Because he does. That's the thing. This is like, if you look at it like from a nervous system perspective.
From a what perspective?
A nervous system. Like,
Nervous
everything's
system.
unfamiliar. It doesn't matter that like they're not slaves anymore. There's nothing familiar that's saying to each person like, you're okay. And Moses is a person, and now Moses is turning to God for that. And the people are so worked up, so overwhelmed, they don't have the ability to even look at each other in that way. To be like, okay, oh, you're here. And we're here together. And earlier, when you asked everybody, like, what's something here that's real, that's true, you know, that's good, and even if it's not good, just neutral, I'd be happy with neutral, right? But it was really hard. I commented it's really hard for people to come up with something right here, like in this room. Like, is there a color? Is there a texture? Is there something here that feels like really real for you? They didn't have like a pause for that. They didn't have, you know, anyone to guide them
A
towards
somatic
that.
therapist, for example, to guide
Exactly.
them.
They do not have a somatic experiencing practitioner to say,
Yeah.
like, just notice what is.
Yes.
Right? Because that's when we're noticing what isn't, then
Yes.
we're really afraid.
Yes, and actually, thank you for pointing that out. Like, that's one more thing in there, is noticing the lack, noticing the negative, right? Like, there's a word for that, right? Like the negativity bias. We all are, it's like a human thing. We notice what's not here, even in the presence of so much that is here. It's just how we're built, you know?
And no one
yes.
person, even the greatest rabbi, no one person can regulate for the rest of the world.
Right.
Like, we all need sources of co-regulation to be with each other in that. And that's not just a thing that we teach kids to be able to do. Like, we all need co-regulation from one another.
All right,
I'll
maybe
stop.
one more before we, all right. Tim, and then, yeah? Or, wait, no, Stephen, did you have somebody back there? All right. All right.
This better be good.
Yeah.
So this is one of my favorite parshas. Not my favorite, but one of my favorite, because it reminds me of me. I think what it represents, what the Israelites are doing, is they're romanticizing a really bad situation. They're like, look at this fish we used to have for free, and look at these cucumbers and this garlic, and everything was so wonderful. Like they're leaving out the part about being slaves, but it was comfortable. It was 400 years. I mean, they were comfortable being slaves. So as soon as that familiarity and that change and not knowing what's coming next, like we crave what's next in my relationship, what's next in my job, what's next, and when we have to sit that ambiguity of not knowing what's next, we tend to retreat back into what was great. Like we do it with relationships. Like, oh, he never called me, but he was such a great boyfriend. She never showed up, but she was, but, right?
Yes.
And so that's kind of what I see in this parsha is a lot of romanticizing about the past. And this isn't the only time Moses asked God to kill him either. Spoiler alert, God doesn't kill him. But
Right. Yes.
but it's also, and I think there's a commentary that I really appreciate that talks about craving a craving. Like all their needs were met. They really didn't need anything, so there was really nothing to gripe about, but they had to invent something. Like when you're laying in bed at night and it's the end of a lovely day and everything's so great and your bills are paid and the kids are asleep and you're in bed early, all of a sudden a thought hits you like, there must be something wrong. Like, there has to be something that I need to be worried about. Like, I can't be content just to be content. Like, there has to be what's next, what's coming.
Thank you. Thank you. We could go on, right? I'm sure there are things that you noticed or talked about that we haven't yet brought up here. The complaining. A couple weeks ago, Rabbi Jonah Rank came and gave a drash, and he drew on a study of some professors at Tufts University. One of them is named Eitan Hirsch. I'm not remembering the other one. But they talked about people who are college educated and the number of hours people spend consuming news. And the more educated a person is, the more hours they spend consuming, and the fewer of those hours are spent doing anything politically. It's people who have less formal education or degrees on their wall who are going door to door knocking and canvassing and showing up at protests and being involved in local organizations in the community. And he kind of threw down the gauntlet and invited all of us to stop whining, stop complaining, and maybe do a little something, But you see the Israelites with all that they have, whining and complaining. And who doesn't relate to that? We all do it. But it's just something to notice. Magical thinking. It's another one, right? Like if we could only go backward, and actually luxuriating in the memories of what used to be. And by the way, it's a completely distorted memory. Like they ate garlic and leeks and melons, and maybe they saw them on the buffet tables of the people they were serving, but that was not their life. But in their mind, they're going back to a better time in the past, make the Israelites great again, and it's dangerous thinking. It's dangerous thinking. But, I would be lying if I would like to go back in time. I'd like to get in a time machine back to a time when the two-state solution in Israel might have actually been plausible, or the policy that really might have steered climate change in a different direction than where we are now. There was a time when that was all possible. And we are in a different time now, and we can't rewind the clock. But I sometimes like to live in a place where I imagine that we could. It's a nice place to retreat to, but it's fantasy. So they go there, right? We didn't study this, but of course, Miriam and Aaron down here, Rabbi Stephen mentioned it earlier, where they start to insult and talk behind their brother's back. They start to insult Moses. And I'm thinking, what is the word for when you're allies, you're on the same team, you actually want the same thing overall, but you figure out ways to take each other down and criticize each other, hurting the overall enterprise because, you know, you have small disagreements. What is it, the narcissism of small... I don't even think it's frenemy exactly. It's people who are like all on the left end of the spectrum who cannibalize each other and then lose the election, for example. There's a word for that. I don't know what it is. But what is it? No, but like we see it all the time. Infighting that ends up leading to the corrosion of the thing that could actually be, that could actually lead us forward with more cohesion and more trust. It's the breakdown of trust in the group, right? And we see that happen, and actually God sends Miriam a little plague to try, you know, basically like a little punishment for her role in corroding the leadership of the Israelite people. Like Moses and Miriam and Aaron, they need each other. They're all coming from slightly different places, and it becomes clear, actually, they're insulting Moses about his wife, but really what they want is more power. They're mad about, like, he's the main prophet, and they wish they were the main prophet. And, you know, it's something to notice when we start to take down other people who are actually very aligned with us, but we start splitting hairs over things that seem actually quite important, and maybe they are, but at the end of the day, we let that get in the way of marching forward together toward the larger goal that we actually all share if we could just talk to one another without screaming or without dismissing each other as stupid or naive or on the wrong team. And this can be really hard. This can be hard, but it's something to notice that we all do, or we tend to do, and that the Israelites model here, even the leadership of the Israelites model here. And so God ends up being, for once in the Torah, the adult in the room. It's not really once in the Torah. God is free. The character of God in the Torah frequently is steering the right direction. There are a couple places where we're like, okay, God, slow down, take a deep breath. But this is a place where neither the Israelites nor Moses nor Miriam nor Aaron, any of the leaders, have the inner fortitude, the spaciousness to be leaders. And so God says to them, gather me 70 of Israel's elders, whom you have experience with and who are trusted by the people, and bring them to the tent of meeting, and let them take their place with you, Moses. I will come down and speak with you there, and I will draw upon the spirit that's on you and put it on them, and they will share the burden with you. And so you will not have to bear this alone. I think that's so beautiful. In these moments when we feel like retreating, we feel like we're alone, we behave in ways that make other people want to leave us alone, God says, turn to someone near you and make a friend. Let my spirit, let your spirit be held by other people. Share the burden. You cannot do it alone. We can't fight anti-Semitism alone. The Black and Latino and minority communities across our country cannot fight racism and anti-immigrant sentiments alone. We can't save democracy alone. We have to work with people across differences and backgrounds. The Torah describes this asafsuf, this riffraff, that kind of instigates among the Israelites this corrosive negativity. And I think that's just it's like this invitation for us to be aware of the people trying to break our connections, our friendships, our alliances, and to look to one another, to look around, and not allow negative forces really trying to create isolation among us to succeed. Because then we really will have lost it. And we will not get to the promised land. And the truth is, these Israelites, they don't make it. The Torah, in a strange way, is not optimistic on some level. And so we read it two different ways. There's one way to read Torah where it's prescriptive. We read it for the insight it gives us about what to do. Don't murder, don't steal. You know, here are ways to live. Practice business honestly. Observe the Sabbath and keep it holy. These are prescriptions for a moral, beautiful life. But then there's a way to read the Torah descriptively, where we're not reading it for what to do. We're reading it to see who we are. It's a description. It's just telling us who we are. Rabbi David Wolpe, who once got in so much trouble with his own congregation at Sinai Temple, the aforementioned, because he said something like, you know, there's no proof that the Exodus happened, but it was still true with a small t. And his community got really mad because a lot of those people took, you know, the Exodus is really important and it's important that it happened. And he said, no, it doesn't have to have happened to be true. It has to happen to be true. It happens. What we're reading, this is us. And so our invitation is to not follow the direction the Israelites follow. They can't break out of these cycles. They can't do it. So maybe we can. In every generation, we're invited to read this and learn and do better. So may the words of Torah be sweet in our mouths. May they move us to pray with our words and our feet. May we join hands across so many different races, ethnicities, traditions, even traditions within our own people, to move toward the promised land with faith and love and resilience and self-awareness that our ancestors did not have, and not fall victim to all the traps we've been warned about here. And as Aaron is invited at the very beginning of the Parsha to light the menorah, to light the lamps, that's where the Torah's name, or the Parsha's name comes from, B'ha'alotcha. May we be the lights that we need to light along the way for ourselves and for each other, especially in moments when we know we all might fall victim to these kinds of behaviors and mindsets. May we be the adults in the room for others and know that there will be a time when we will need someone else in this room or in your world to be the adult for you. And may we continue to just move forward with as much awareness as possible in this wilderness that we are all navigating together. So thank you for the learning, everybody.